Got my coffee in my very special B mug. I have a friend named Bill Graham, who's an amazing human being. Worked in the White House. He passed a lot of the major legislation that around civil rights. Just amazing human being, amazing. He gave me this mug. This is the mug I drink out of when I need inspiration in the day. So this is how I'm getting the day started.
Very good. I wish it's weird because when we started 1 Million Cups here, it was myself and another lady who has since moved on to another position. But it's interesting because here we are 1 Million Cups and neither one of us drink coffee.
I do. I just drink it really early, like 4:30 in the morning. I'm drinking coffee, but I have to turn it off. I only get a certain amount. I wouldn't be able to sit in my chair if I drank it all day.
So it was good when Lori joined us because now we actually can say that somebody drinks coffee.
I'll drink it for the both of you. No, I don't go overboard. I usually just have 1 4-ounce cup, but it's fairly concentrated to get all the wheels turning. And then once that's happening, it's dangerous. I don't have to do too much with coffee the rest of the day.
Nothing worse than wimpy coffee, David.
Then Lori had to go through a period of time where she had to drink decaffeinated. I thought she was going to lose her mind. She just didn't like it.
It was tough. All right, you guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to 1MC, everybody. Glad to have you. Thanks for taking the time to come and spend with us. And Mr. David Reeser, who's going to talk about his business today. He's going to come and talk about OpiAID. In an age of an epidemic that we're seeing with drug addiction and drug overdoses, nothing any better than having some solution to the problem. So David, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell us a little bit more about OpiAID.
Sure, thank you. Now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now as well. Everybody can hear me okay? Thumbs up, volume's good. If I get to be talking too fast, please slow me down. I'll try to intentionally talk at the correct pace. Sometimes it's difficult when I'm not in the same room with everyone. But good morning, everyone. My name is David Reeser. It's a pleasure to be here with you today for 1 Million Cups. I am the founder and CEO of OpiAID. OpiAID is a company that was founded on a love for our neighbors in recovery. That's the spirit in which we do everything. We looked in our backyard and am I sharing screen? I am. We looked in our backyard of Wilmington, North Carolina and said, and such a beautiful place, how can 11.6% of our working population be addicted to an opioid? How are these two things true? How can in such a beautiful place, there's such suffering, it's just happening in the background? So we started taking a look at the problem and meeting with constituents in the community to try to understand how we can tackle this. Now, I intentionally named the company OpiAID and not OpiSolve because I don't think that any tool can solve the problem. It's really us coming together. And so I wanted to present a couple of my asks in the beginning. And as I present this message to you, you can decide whether or not it's something that you want to help me out on. So my first ask is that if you agree with this thought process, I'd love for you to take the No Shame Pledge. I dropped the link in the chat, and simply the No Shame Pledge says that substance use disorder is a disease, and we have to respect and love our neighbors. It's pretty much that simple, and that we vow that that's the approach that we're going to take to this, because the reality is half the people who are struggling with substance use disorder never seek treatment. They never seek treatment, and the reason they don't seek it is they're afraid to be stigmatized. Because this is the reality. Substance use disorder addiction is a physiologic response, not a moral failing. And the more that we can wrap our heads around the fact that that is the truth, and I can show you with data, the better chance we're going to have of respecting each other and people getting the care that they need. We don't avoid getting care for diabetes or heart disease. It shouldn't be any different in this arena. With that, I'll jump into my actual presentation.
Hi, Marley. Can we help you?
I think someone's got their mic on. So OpiAID OpiAID's, as I mentioned, is a company, we formed here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And our thought process is, while we want to bring our neighbors home at night, we believe that technology is the vehicle to actually do that. And here's the problem. In the US, in the past year, overdose deaths have increased by 30%. So in the US alone, we're seeing 93,000 people overdose each year. So what that means is 250 people a day, every 10 minutes in the United States of America, someone overdoses. And right now, the gold standard for treatment. So if you have substance use disorder and you're being treated for it, essentially the medical gold standard of treatment is called medically assisted treatment. Medically assisted treatment. So physicians and therapists work with you and they prescribe drugs like buprenorphine and methadone to help calm the cravings you have for illicit drugs. And this program is pretty intense, but even with this very effective treatment, retention rates in these programs is abysmal. So more than 2 out of 3 people drop out of treatment in the first 12 weeks, which means they never stabilize. In the US, it takes 8 years in recovery to get 1 year clean, with 5 relapses on average, and that's considered the gold standard. And to me, that's not acceptable. So what you're seeing here is the first slide of a group that I participated with over the summer. It's called NIH I-Corps, the National Institute of Health, put on an accelerator specifically for businesses that are federally funded. So this was the first slide within our I-Corps program. And what you're seeing here is that we've done over 105 interviews across the nation for 30 minutes to an hour of clinicians and individuals in treatment. So we really understand this problem. And here are some folks from my team as well. And really what it comes down to this is a lean canvas that we put together. This is a wonderful tool. Lean canvas is a wonderful tool for any entrepreneur out there looking to either start a business or launch a new line or a new product. Walking through a lean canvas exercise, which I can do like a pro now after lots and lots of practice with NIH, is a really effective way to understand the problem. And what we identified was timely and actionable data was not available to clinicians that treat substance use disorder. Everything they were learning was either after the person relapsed or just didn't come back. And that's not acceptable. So what we did, here's a quick financial slide, just shows you how we're looking at financials and some milestones along the way. What we did is we developed a software. This is where we started. We developed a software that integrates into electronic health records of physicians that treat patients with substance use disorder. And what it does is it acts like a dashboard, like a scoreboard. It pulls out data out of the patient's healthcare record that's relevant to their treatment for substance use disorder. And it starts to stratify the risk of that individual in treatment. So what we're actually doing is bringing the clinical data that's most important to the forefront to the physicians when they need it in order to make decisions to do just-in-time interventions. So let me give you a quick example. If a patient, while they're at home and they're being treated, through telemedicine, if they take a survey or take a test and it identifies that their clinical depression has escalated greatly, what would normally happen is that data would enter the EHR, the physician wouldn't see it into their next appointment. In our system, it extracts that data, recognizing it's clinically relevant, pulls it to the forefront and alerts the physician. In this case, you can potentially avert a relapse or someone overdosing because you'd identify a depression that could escalate out of control that could lead to a relapse on illicit drugs. So that's one piece of our system. This is what our market looks like. We're specifically working with and looking to work with medically assisted treatment centers. And these are the groups I had mentioned before that provide methadone and buprenorphine for patients, essentially the gold standard. There are around 16,000 of these clinics in the US, 12,000 that fall kind of within our sweet spot, and locally about 2,500 clinics. The circles that you're seeing to the right is the cost in treating someone with substance use disorder. If someone is compliant with their treatment, these are numbers from Blue Cross Blue Shield because I've also been working with them. It costs about $25,000 a year to keep for someone who's compliant in their treatment. When they're relapsing and showing up in ER, only to enter treatment again in 28-day programs, it costs almost $70,000. So for $700 paying for our platform, $700 a year, you could potentially prevent for $43,000 costs, not to mention the human cost of people relapsing, not coming home, not going back to work. I mean, the human costs are much, much greater. So just a little bit about our attraction. Am I okay on time, by the way? Do I have a couple more minutes? Okay. Little bit about our attraction. So what we have available today is an integrated decision tool. It helps the physicians make more informed decisions, more timely decisions around the treatment for people in substance use disorder. What we're developing is something really pretty exciting. We at OpiAID won a small business innovation research grant through the National Institute of Health, National Institute of Drug Abuse. It's the most competitive grant you can win in the US, probably in hard science and healthcare, the most competitive grant. We won a phase 1 for $276,000 to study the biometrics of substance use disorder. What that means is patients that are leaving coastal horizons here in Wilmington, North Carolina, which they have locations in Fayetteville too, I believe. People that leave coastal horizons are leaving, some are leaving with bands on their arms. So using a wrist-worn device similar to an Apple Watch, we're able to collect biometrics 24/7 over the course of 2 weeks. And we're using that data, de-identified, of course, not identifying our neighbors, but using that data de-identified to unlock the algorithm for acute use and withdrawal. In doing that, we can personalize the approach based on your own physiology, personalize the approach for each individual. This is groundbreaking. No one has cracked this. And if we do, we'll be the first in the nation, first in the world, actually. And it's quite innovative. And I'm not saying to fluff myself, it's our team. It's amazing. And the reason I'm really excited about it is I genuinely believe it's going to change somebody's life, a lot of people's lives, if we're successful. And we're getting a lot of opportunity, a lot of attention for this, and really want to help a lot of people. So if you can help spread the message of OpiAID, we'd love to talk to more people interested in OpiAID, either utilizing some of our insights, or being able to partner with us in some way to help our neighbors in recovery. Some folks from our team, we have some of the best software developers and data scientists literally in the world, and I can actually comfortably say that. Yeah, we have a group of unbelievably dedicated people, and they're not just smart; they're on the same mission as as the rest of the team members on OpiAID. We want to see our neighbors come home at night. So we just brought together some of the best and the brightest to be able to pull that off. And here's some of our partnerships. We partner with NIH, National Institute of Health. We're in the I-Corps program. Google's behind us. There's a couple other names I have to add here, but the long story short is this: OpiAID is technology, but AI with a purpose. AI for the good. We're looking to leverage just data, not hardware, data, in such a way that we can see more positive outcomes in a very challenging disease. And I thank you for your time today. I hope that everyone understood what I presented here. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
David, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming today. We had a chance to talk a little bit before the meeting started, but I really appreciate your business. I don't think many of us are not touched, at least by what we're seeing with the drug overdoses that are occurring on a daily basis. Many of us, including myself, have had a family member that struggled with opiates. So it's a much needed business, and I really appreciate it. And again, I see the stigma, and I do think awareness brings change, and I really appreciate that. So I definitely want to take the No Shame Pledge, and I'm definitely going to promote that. Again, fantastic idea. I've got a couple of questions. You mentioned the band, so the person will wear a band. Is it going to be compatible with the iWatch? Or
I'm so glad you asked. I'm so glad you asked. So our desire is to be device agnostic. So it's bring your own device. If you have a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, it's not going to matter. I'm building the pipeline in such a way that it'll be able to accept any of those data, and on the back end, we're going to cut the data up into different frequencies in order to be able to interpret them. So patients and clinicians, they'll get the interpreted data from their band, just like you do with your sleep scores and, see how you did last night. It's going to be the same thing for your treatment, and it's going to be discreet.
Fantastic. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, where do you see this going? I mean, you've talked about what you envision. I mean, what do you see in the near future?
Well, in the near future, I'm sorry, Lori, please finish your question. I apologize.
No, what do you see? What do you envision for the near future for OpiAID? And then long term, what do you want to see happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in the near future, we're finishing our phase 1 study with NIH, and we're going to apply for phase 2, which is a 10 times larger study and looks more like a clinical trial. So we apply for SBIR phase 2 in January, possibly April timeframe, depending how long it takes to write. And in that way, once we complete phase 2, we'll be on track for FDA approval or clearance for the platform for SUD. In the meantime, I'm working a deal right now with the state of Alaska that we're going to make this software available to clinics in Alaska, because I'm having more traction in Alaska than I am in North Carolina, which is a little bit unfortunate. And it's the reality situation sometimes, a little too much politics, I think, but it's okay. It'll all happen when it's supposed to. But in Alaska, open arms. So I think the state of Alaska is going to bring us in the next few months to launch a pilot of the software piece even before the biometrics are ready. And we'll be probably starting a raise. We pretty much just did friends and family up till now. We'll probably be starting to raise. And I know that's not really a 1 million cups thing, but I'm just telling you, first quarter of 2022. So that's what's on the near horizon, and it's going to be a lot.
So, David, I believe I'm hearing that your target market is the treatment centers. Is it exclusively treatment centers? Do you also work with hospitals or any other maybe government agencies or anything of that nature? And how are you reaching those other than a one-on-one conversation?
Great question. That's an absolutely great question. So we can work through the EHR companies too. So if anyone has a relationship with an EHR company, that would be a huge bonus for us, because there seems to be a lot of interest to integrate this and be able to spread it out as a service offering. But yeah, we typically work with the clinics, but another great place to land is primary care. A lot of primary care docs get what's called an X waiver, which is extra training to be able to provide treatment for substance use disorder. So any large primary care practices or hospitals that have a piece of their business that's largely primary care, that's actually a great fit, because a lot of those physicians, they're obviously very good at what they do, but they don't specialize in SUD. And it's kind of like getting an SUD specialist on your team when the OpiAID software is running in the background, if that makes sense.
Is there anything else on the market that does anything related to what you do? And if there is, how are you different? How are you standing out?
Great question. There's probably 100, 200 companies working within the SUD space. There's a group called Vivi Health that's very similar to us. Their focus is around substance use disorder around the same time in medically assisted treatment. I feel like they offer a little too much, in my opinion, and it's really hard to be great at all of those pieces. What's unique about ours is ours actually is pure data science as the backbone with this predictive nature. And those folks are doing really great work. Really, I'm happy for them. And I actually want them all to win, because one solution isn't going to rule them all. They also have, subspecialties that are different than ours. It's one of those things where it's a different flavor. Ours is focused on a certain group at a certain time. Like, I think our software is going to be most effective at the beginning of medically assisted treatment, when people have the highest risk of dropping out and overdosing. So that's how we're gearing our solution. If I can make a difference in the first 2 weeks of treatment, we'll change the world. Like, if I can keep one more person in treatment, so it's 2 out of 3, at week 3 or week 4, we literally will change the world, and that's enough for me. But that's what makes us different. However, our moat is going to be biometrics. If we're the first to be able to identify the algorithm for withdrawal and essentially craving, and being able to help people understand how their bodies are reacting to their treatment and adjust dosing, we'll be the first in the world. And the reason I know that to be true is because we're working with the top researchers in the country, and we're being invited in different parts of the world to go speak. Like I'm going to Malmo, Sweden in November because they saw what we're working on. They're like, this is really cool. Do you want to come out here? So like it is honestly unique. But there are other groups working on it. We're not the only one. So someone could crack it before us. Paratherapeutics is trying to do the same thing right now, but we have different controls in place that are kind of unique. So it's going to be a little race. They actually may acquire us when it's all said and done. Anyway, sorry if that was too much.
No, it wasn't, and actually explained a lot more. I do want to say, though, I truly appreciate the attitude that your company has toward this, because there's so much of a stigma attached to people who have addictions, when some of them could be totally innocent, how it got started, an accident or something that got started on pain meds or whatever. And just to see someone trying to take the stigma away, instead of blaming them, you're trying to treat them and help them. So I applaud you for that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And honestly, I'm at this place now though, or I sit back and, I feel like I was part of the problem, honestly, but now that I've seen the data and I've changed my heart about it, over the last 5 years, my heart's changed about it. Like I understand more objectively. I come from healthcare. I spent 13 years in direct patient care. I've cared for thousands of people, thousands, and I've seen people suffer. And it feels like now that I look back, I feel like we put knives all over a playground, and the kids went and played, and then they all got cut. And when they came back to us, we made them feel ashamed. But it's like shame on us. As healthcare professionals, we put that crap out there. Part of my language. And people got physiologically addicted, because substance use disorder addiction, it's a physiologic response, not a moral failing. Like it's the same as heart disease or kidney disease. Like no one feels ashamed when they break a leg to go get a cast. And you shouldn't feel any different here. So in my mind, I've already gotten past that, but I just want to bring more people on board with it, because I know if we just break down that one barrier alone, we're gonna make a big difference. And I feel like in some ways we have, just in that regard, even before some of the hard science has made its way through. I would love for people to come on camera too, if you wouldn't mind. I know that may seem lame since we only have 7 minutes left, but it would be great to see some faces.
How do you go about breaking through the barriers, changing the stigma? Because I see the stigma every single day, and people don't want to be hooked on opiates. After doing some research of my own, studies show that rats exhibit symptoms of withdrawal after 3 therapeutic doses. People don't want to be sick. How do we get them to ask for help instead of OD? How do we break that stigma, do you think, David?
Well, I think it's more than stigma in this regard. So yeah, the way it works with human beings is that, within 5 days, you have the capacity to become physiologically addicted, meaning your opiate receptors work differently, now you need it. Like that can happen to anyone within 5 days. Not saying that it will, right? But completely possible. Part of it is just loving each other and just having respect. Like it goes beyond the shame piece. It's like, hey, I see you. I see you. And I don't know exactly what's going on, but whether it's a mental health challenge, or if it's a substance use disorder or both, because they co-occur like 55% of the time, mental health and substance use disorder. So I don't know what's going on, but I support you. I see you. I see you. How can I help you? And then it's education. It's being able to identify if that level of your relationship to the substance or activity is unhealthy, because that's really what it comes down to. No substance or activity by itself is a bad thing. There's a time for opioids. There's like actually a time for them. You know what I mean? And there's a time to not have them. But it's your relationship to anything that makes a difference. When your relationship is unhealthy to a substance, to a person, to an activity, when it becomes unhealthy, that's when we have to start looking at it. You can get addicted to a lot of things, but it's that relationship that is important to understand that. And just to preface, I'm not a physician. I'm not a therapist, right? I'm just me, and I'm walking through this, and I've watched lots of people walk through it, and I just want to help somebody. But will tell you this, I've got plenty of doctors and PhDs on our team. So if anybody's looking for any type of backup or more details, I can certainly pass it by them and bring it to the forefront. I appreciate everybody jumped on camera too. It's nice to be able to see faces.
I do have a question about your bans though. If you have somebody who has been released from a treatment center or is out in the public, got the band on, is there a certain point where certain biometrics will trigger an alarm to your provider, to your healthcare person, so that they know that you're approaching a danger zone, or it's to the point where somebody needs to intervene before, like you said, they actually OD, or is it just feeding information? Is there any kind of alarm or alert system that, whoa, we're in the danger zone?
Great question. Great question. So the devices we're using right now are strictly for research. Super expensive, not entirely attractive, just to be clear, but really great at collecting measurements. In the future, it's a bring your own band situation. And the idea is this: we want people to be comfortable with the technology. We're doing this respecting our neighbors. And I say that to say this: there's going to be like 12 different levels of engagement with this device. And the clinician and our neighbor in treatment is going to decide what data they're sharing and when. That's how it's going to work. Complete respect. This is not going to be some, ban that's used to somehow bring judgment or something on them or legal or anything. So they're going to decide how much data and when. But yeah, it's actually pretty easy, honestly, to pick up when someone's overdosing. It's kind of the lowest hanging fruit. There are other researchers that know what this looks like too. And yeah, I can certainly code an alert at that time if it's necessary, of course. But there are little rhythms that you see way before all that happens. And that's the stuff, those early patterns that you want to disrupt. That's really where the rubber hits the road. And honestly, that's where it's going to play out to be the most beneficial in the future. Because in my heart, my mind, I see 10 years out from now, people are just going to have it running on their watch, just like they do the weather and everything else. And that if they've been in treatment years before, those are the ones that are the hardest to predict, is when someone's been clean for 5 years and all of a sudden they die. And it's like, what happened? They were clean for 5 years. The way that I'm looking at this technology is that years out, you will start to see these little rhythms where you're falling into a bad pattern again. And it'll be able to engage before you get to that critical last mile. Like, that's the whole idea. That's technology for the good. In fact, I'll leave you with this because I see we're running out of time. Is in the future, my sincere desire is that this would be like a little card hanging inside a CVS near the Fitbits, and that you could take your phone and scan the card just like you do a gift card, and it would download an app to your phone, connect it to your device. You can monitor your own recovery. You can connect it to any physician that you want to. You know what I mean? You can step yourself off of opioids just like you do nicotine. And it'll be inexpensive and widely accessible. That's my goal. But I have to start where the people are ready to start.
You brought up a good point that, some people think that once you have kicked a habit that you're forever free of any issues. How long right now are you tracking people in terms of the data? How many years do you project that you would be monitoring to look for those cycles?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, it won't be us looking at monitoring anymore, because the human body, it's pretty interesting in data science that once you've figured something out, you can go back through the body of knowledge and data that's already been collected and understand patterns and things that you didn't know were there. Long story short is this: I see this being an autonomous, deep learning algorithm in the cloud, where data that is constantly fed to it will refine the model. But at some point, the model's predictive nature will be so high that it's just going to do a comparison against the library. They'll just pinging the library and seeing what's going on. Meaning this, I think it's going to be relevant for the long term, because there's so much data to support this that's already been collected, and the data just. So I participate in an IoT accelerator, #1 in the country, right? And this is something I learned. Every 90 days, the world's data doubles. Every 90 days, the data in the world doubles because of all the IoT, Internet of Things, deployed out there. So all's going to happen is that the data monitoring you for your substance use, your diabetes, your heart disease, or none of those diseases, right? Just monitoring your overall physical wellness. It's only going to get better. It's only going to personalize and constantly update. So hopefully that answers your question. Does anybody have anything else? Because everything got quiet for a second.
You did mention, I think you said that your fee structure was 700 a year. Is that correct? Or is that?
Yeah, that's a good question again. Yeah, so around 700 a year. Yeah, we can. It's sometimes less. So the way that we do it is there's a CPT code, a few of them actually that can be billed. 99091, for instance, is one of those CPT codes for remote patient monitoring, and it's an unbundled code that can be used in substance use disorder. It pays $58 through lowest end CMS billing. So we basically structured it at that $58 mark. So it's basically $58 a month. So it comes out to $700 a year, about give or take $1 or $2, $700 a year.
So are you billing per patient, or are you billing per treatment facility, a flat rate for a treatment facility? How exactly?
It's
For those,
per patient.
I know I got some audience members here that are coders, but they're kind of quiet this morning. So I'm trying to understand as a non-coder how it's billed.
Yeah, so it's billed by the treatment office. So let me just put something in there. It's billed by the treatment office because we can't do the billing for them. It's billed by the treatment office, and mind you, we're just getting to the point where we're launching this and going through the billing cycles, because this is incredibly difficult to do and to have them start paying for. We're just at that point where this is happening. So it's billed by the coders in the treatment centers, and depending on their negotiated rates, are given different levels of reimbursement. But we're charging $58 per patient utilizing the platform. So in some clinics, it might be 5 people, it might be 10 people, it might be 200 people. But we basically are ensuring the fact that the clinic is going to make money while offering the service. It doesn't become a fee to them. If anything, it's a pass-through. But in a lot of cases, it's going to be a big time vertical creation, because this didn't exist before. And they're going to have higher treatment. They're going to have higher success rates. If we're successful from the business side of the house, this is what's going to happen. Patients are going to get better. They're going to continue to engage in their treatment. The clinics are going to make significantly more money because people aren't dropping out of treatment. And the insurance companies are going to save money because the patients are more compliant. And I've talked to folks at Blue Cross Blue Shield. They agree. The challenge is you have to have outcomes data to be able to prove that that's actually the case. So that's why we're getting large enough pilots in place to be able to bring that data back and say, hey, in a population of 10,000 people, this is what we're able to do, and I can track it. And then you can start having meaningful conversations about reimbursement, and them, using their venture arms to invest in you.
And so David, Audra says that she knows that a lot of government agencies have to buy through e-procurement. And she's assuming that health departments would as well. Could you get approved through as a supplier and then go after maybe health departments?
Gosh, I would love that. I just had a call with the VA last week at that biomedical conference. There's some work that we have to do to be able to do that yet. But yes, I'm very interested in going that route. I think this is going to be a pretty big deal, potentially, right? There's nothing's done till it's done. But I think that this has an opportunity to be pretty important within those organizations and departments. Yeah, I would like to go that route. I don't know enough about doing that. So if someone could support me on that, I'm not sure, who did you say asked the question, Lori?
Audra,
I have my email at the top of that chat there. If you wouldn't mind sending me an email. I don't have enough visibility into that, honestly, nor does my team, but I would love to understand it better. I do have interest in going that route, but I don't know that we have enough done to be able to take advantage of that.
she also mentioned that pain management clinics, which I think would be ideal, would be a good place to keep them from, helping them from ending up needing opiate treatment, as a preventative measure. Have you tried reaching out to the pain management clinics? I think there are quite a few of those now.
So many. You're 100% correct. Excuse me. The challenge for me right now is I have a small team, and we're trying to be really laser focused on solving a piece of the problem. And I know, like, if I can not solve, but if I can help the first 2 weeks of mat treatment, just the first 2 weeks, like, I know what's possible because there's been some research done in that time frame. So that's where I've started. We can go a lot of places, and I'd like to better understand that too, because I don't know pain management the way I know other areas in healthcare. But we would like to go there eventually. But I know I got to crack that first 2 weeks in treatment. That's where we're starting. But I think we can go a lot of different places. Just want to be focused.
So could you reach out to the pain management clinics or pick a few and use them, donate your services like as a trial to capture that data that you need to actually prove that the first 2 weeks are critical?
Yeah, that's a great question. I absolutely can do that. And that's actually really great. I appreciate that insight, actually. I'd be happy to donate the services to do that. What they would need in order to make that a lot simpler is Cario. If they had Cario software, which I'll put that in the chat. Cario software makes a huge difference. I'm already integrated, and I'm being put into a special program at that company. So if any of them use Cario software, this becomes a very easy lift for me.
Okay. Also, we have another question in the chat from Laura. She wants to know, is Medicaid and Medicare currently reimbursing the CPT codes?
Yeah, so Medicare and Medicaid, Medicare, they reimburse 88453 through 88459 and 99091. Those are a series of telemedicine and remote patient monitoring codes. They already reimburse for those. It's just that the way that we positioned this solution, it falls into a category right now of a decision tool, and those decision tools sometimes aren't reimbursed. So it's this tricky thing where insurance companies are like, yeah, we know it's helpful, but kind of don't want to pay for it, but as your outcomes data becomes more and more crispy clear about what it is that you're delivering, it changes the conversation. And that's why we're really in a race to get enough outcomes data. If I have enough outcomes data, I can show them the path and I can show them the patient pathway, which is pretty beautiful in and of itself, being able to show how a patient traveled through the healthcare system, and where the deflection points were during their substance use disorder and where you could have disrupted that pattern, and then identify before they relapse. If you can show that in a large enough patient population, the conversation changes. So the answer is yes, those CPT codes are all billable. It's just that some folks are not getting reimbursed for decision tools right now. Reality of the situation. It'll change. It takes time.
And then an additional comment from Audra. She said a lot of hospitals use Epic software, so you could possibly check into that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, there's a hospital in Alaska that has some interest in working with us, and they have Epic, and I've seen the Epic Orchard. It's kind of challenging to integrate into Epic, and super happy to do it. Like if we have a client who's large enough to make that spend make sense, I'd be super happy to do it. Each Epic integration is a little bit different, even though it's one system. Each installation is different and fairly complex. There are some EHRs that are just beautiful. They just make it super easy. And Cario was one of them. That's why we went there first. They have like 1,100 clinics or something in their network. And, now we're fully integrated. So it's one of those situations where that becomes an easier lift. But happy to look at another integration if we had a very interested party. So for instance, if Novant came and said, hey, David, we're really interested in doing this, I would make it work, believe me. Yeah, Laura said Epic's complex is an understatement. Completely. Completely. Hopefully people found this helpful. I'm having trouble gauging if this was good or if I've just bloviated too much here. I appreciate everyone coming on camera and stuff too. This is cool.
You've done
It's
a
good to see other
fantastic
humans.
job, David, by the way. Do we have any other questions?
While we're waiting for additional questions, I just want to remind everyone that Athena has posted a couple of times the No Shame Pledge that you can take.
Yes.
It's very simple because I've already completed mine. Just name and what city, state, and agree to the pledge. That's all you have to do.
That would be a great honor. Thank you, Cindy, for saying that. Honestly, if everyone would do that, it literally takes a minute. It would mean a lot. I would sincerely appreciate it.
You got it, David.
And if I can be of help too, it doesn't have to be for OpiAID. I'm a big supporter of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Big supporter. I take time every Friday to talk to a new entrepreneur. So if anybody, wants to connect with me, or if I can help somebody, happy to do it. Really happy to do it. Like my areas are healthcare and sales. That's kind of where I live, is healthcare and sales.
And so just FYI, you guys, David has actually done some presentations for our college. I think the Small Business Center has invited him back, and he has agreed, I think. And he's going to come and discuss sales, especially for entrepreneurs. I hope I will be there. I'll be looking for that, David. So I'm going to actually take the last question for today. What can this community do for you, David? How can we help?
Sorry, I was just responding to somebody's message. It's real simple with me. So all I ask is that you show love to your neighbor. That's it, because it's amazing. You were saying earlier, like, how can we change the stigma? Well, it's real simple, actually. It's one act of kindness at a time. It really is that simple. It genuinely is that simple. Just walk in and like have a kind word and a soft place to land for somebody, one at a time, one moment at a time. It's really literally that simple, and you change everything. People completely overestimate what they can do in a year. They completely overestimate what they can do in the year. They always underestimate what can be done in a decade. One small act of kindness at a time, we could turn around in 10 years and look back and be like, holy cow, how did this happen? It happened because you were intentional, one moment at a time. That's all it really takes. OpiAID is on its own path. God knows where it's going to go, and but I see good things for it, right? I don't know that anyone can affect directly what's going to go on with that path, but I do know that if you take a little bit of time and you're really intentional with one person, not only do you honor the mission that we're on, but I think you honor them, and that's how I think you can change this, change the conversation. I don't know. It's just my 2 cents.
Thank you so much, David. It has been a pleasure, and fantastic, by the way. I'm a huge supporter. So I did take the pledge, and I hope all of our guests will take the pledge as well. We would like to invite you back. Hopefully we'll come back face to face. We'd love to have you back on campus, but if not, we'd love to have you virtual as well.
I'll do both.
And everybody for coming today, taking a few minutes to come and support local business and entrepreneurship in our community. Next week, we won't meet next week. We're gonna take a break as the campus gets ready for that second semester. But we will be back on the 20th. We have CW Dressings, which is a local business here in Fayetteville. He is a veteran, and so I hope to see each and every one of you back. You guys go out and have a great day. I'll see you next week. Or I won't see you next week. I'll see you the following week. Sorry.
All right.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
We'll be in touch, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks,
All right.
Lori.
Thank you all
Bye-bye,
for
everybody.
coming. And thank you again for those of you who went on camera. Greatly appreciate it. And good job, David. I honestly say I know a lot more now than I did an hour ago.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Cynthia. I appreciate that.